Greetings, gaming citizens. Mike here. It's that time of the year again where every review outlet and game journalism website is publishing articles about their game of the year. So I thought it would be fun to chime in on the conversation and do something a little bit different. So I like to predict stuff like Nintendo Directs, but I thought it would be fun if I tried to predict what all the nominees for the Game Awards are going to be, because the Game Awards is my favorite event of the year. And it's coming up in a month, and in just a couple weeks, we're going to be getting the actual nominees, and gamer democracy will begin. So, I went through release calendars and all kinds of resources to curate a list of who I think is going to be nominated for every category. Now, disclaimer, some of these are my personal hopes and thoughts, but for the most part, I was trying to predict them by thinking in the perspective of the Game Awards jury and how they would select the category selections. So this is partially opinion-based, but partially trying to think in someone else's shoes, if that makes sense. If there's an award you want to skip to and see my nominations for, I will have timestamps in the description down below. But if there is a prediction that you disagree with, or you just want to talk about what your game of the year was, let me know in the comments down below. I'm curious to see what people were playing this year. Without further ado, let's get started. Actually, one more thing. I will only be going over the game-specific categories. So all the esports categories and best adaptation, I decided to leave those out because this video already took quite a while to make, and that would just make this take way longer to make than it already has, because I want to get this out before the nominees actually get released, so that's why. Alright, so starting with most anticipated game. This was pretty easy. I just looked at games that people are excited for that aren't out yet. This was probably the easiest one to research. So we have Hades 2, which I personally can't wait for, Hellblade 2, Death Stranding 2, and I only added that because I feel like Jeff would add this himself because him and Kojima are like best friends, so it only makes sense. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. If you had to ask who I think is going to win, I'd say Final Fantasy. I think Final Fantasy just has a lot of name recognition going for it, so it might win that. For Best Debut Indie Game, so these are indie developers' first ever titles put out. Had to do a lot of research for this one because I can't possibly know every single indie game that's out there. But I tried my best. Shouts to my friends who helped me out with researching for this one. We have 9 Years of Shadows, Eternights, which was that dating sim RPG inspired by Persona. We have Dredge, which already is up there because fishing. Pizza Tower, and Planet of Lana. I haven't heard of like half of these, so I definitely have some more games to check out after this. For Best Multiplayer, we have Street Fighter 6, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, Destiny 2 Lightfall, Overwatch 2, and EA Sports FC 24. There wasn't really any rhyme or reason to this one. I just picked from a couple of esports titles, a couple of just popular multiplayer games. There wasn't really any rhyme or reason to this one. Just like how there wasn't really any rhyme or reason to Best Sports/Racing Game, I just went with the sports and racing games that came out this year, which I know sounds like duh, but these were pretty easy. I just have EA Sports FC 24 again, F1 23, NBA 2K24, Forza Motorsport, and MLB The Show 24. If I had room for another, I would probably just have said the Madden for this year. For Best Simulation or Strategy Game, we have Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp, Cities Skylines 2, F1 Manager 2023, because I was struggling to find a fifth, Persona 5 Tactica, and Disgaea 7. I'm not sure if Disgaea 7 will even get nominated. I feel like the community isn't big enough for Disgaea to really warrant a nomination, especially because, like, in the existence of the Game Awards, Disgaea was never really up there for nomination at all, whether it was Disgaea 6 or 5. But hey, I'd love to, get Disgaea 7's name out there. And also, I reviewed it, so if you haven't seen that already, click the eye in the top right corner of the screen. For Best Family Game, this one was pretty easy. It was mostly just, this is usually where Nintendo would dominate. unless if like a Sonic game came out or something. So we have Pikmin 4, which I personally think should get Game of the Year, but that's just me. Sonic Superstars, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, Disney Illusion Island, and Samba de Amigo Party Central. An honorable mention was Just Dance 2023 as well, because that's usually a pretty good family game. For Best Fighting Game, I feel like the competition's not going to be too difficult this year. We have Street Fighter 6, which I feel like will be the one that wins. Crash Team Rumble, which kind of happened. Mortal Kombat 1. Fraymakers, which came out in early access this year. It's that fighting game with all indie game characters. And Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2, which also kind of happened. I really think it's just going to be a toss-up of Mortal Kombat versus Street Fighter. I don't really have any logic behind that. For Best RPG, this was a very interesting one to look through because a lot of good RPGs came out this year. We have Octopath Traveler 2, Final Fantasy 16, Sea of Stars, Baldur's Gate 3, and Starfield. Honestly, really hard to go wrong with any of these. I could not tell you who's going to win this one. Each game can really stand on its own 2 feet. I guess Starfield a little less so because, Bethesda. But yeah, a lot of good games all around. For Best Action Adventure Game, we have The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, which I think is possibly going to win. Diablo 4, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, which kind of happened. I didn't really see many people talking about that shortly after it came out. Alan Wake 2, and Super Mario Bros. Wonder. For Best Action Game, we have Armored Core 6, Fires of Rubicon, which I kind of hope wins because I feel bad that I didn't hear much about it when it came out. It seems like such a really cool game. Assassin's Creed Mirage, Dead Island 2, Bomb Rush Cyberpunk, and Destiny 2 Lightfall. For Best VR/AR Game, this one was kind of easy because not a lot of VR stuff really came out that, got conversations going. We have Horizon Call of the Mountain, which I think will win just for the name alone. The Room VR: A Dark Matter. Resident Evil 4 VR, which has just as much of a chance as Horizon. Hellsweeper VR, and Firmament. For Innovation and Accessibility, I sourced these picks through caniplaythat.com, which is like an accessibility evaluation site. It's kind of like a game review site, but they evaluate like how good the accessibility of a game is. Very nice website to read through. So I read through like several accessibility reviews because just seeing like accessibility evaluations, it was very interesting stuff. Highly recommend checking that website out. We have Stories of Blossom, Mortal Kombat 1, The Talos Principle 2, Spider-Man 2, and Oxenfree 2. A lot of 2s this time around. An honorable mention I have is Blink in the Vacuum of Space, which is an autism-friendly VR game. And as an autistic myself, I really appreciate stuff like this. Like, keep making more of this stuff. It's great. For Best Community Support, I find that this category is really easy to spec out because it's usually like mostly the same games every single year. And just like every single year, Final Fantasy XIV is probably going to win. But for Best Community Support, we have Final Fantasy XIV Online, Apex Legends, Destiny 2, Fortnite, and No Man's Sky. For Best Mobile Game, this one was also kind of easy because not a lot of like huge mobile games came out this year from what I heard. And there usually is a bit of overlap with Genshin Impact, namely. We also have Marvel Snap. We have Honkai Star Rail. So whether or not this replaces Genshin or is going to be nominated alongside it, I wasn't too sure about. We have Goddess of Victory Nikke and Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis. For Best Indie Game, this was interesting. Quite a few good indies came out this year. We have Viewfinder, Terra Nil, Sea of Stars, Bomb Rush Cyberpunk, and Pizza Tower. For Best Ongoing Game, this one is also really easy. It's just usually a lot of repeats of previous years. It's incredibly predictable. We have Final Fantasy XIV Online, Fortnite, Counter-Strike, Valorant, and I put Honkai Star Rail here because it's either this or Genshin. Historically, it's always been Genshin, but Star Rail has been getting so much attention with like 80 million signups ever since its launch in May I think it has a lot of staying power, and I think it might actually take Genshin's place. For games for impact, we have Tachia, Viewfinder, Terranil, Venba, Cocoon, and Goodbye Volcano High. I didn't really have any rhyme or reason to this one. I just kind of looked for games that really push the message of either diversity or some kind of activism or advocacy for a specific community, like Terranil being awareness about environmental stuff, or just games that explore other cultures. For best performance, honestly, I just went through my some of my Game of the Year picks and just picked voice actors from those games because it's usually how that goes. So for best performance, we have Yuri Lowenthal as Spider-Man Peter Parker. I'm going to butcher this name, but we have Naji Deter as Spider-Man Miles Morales. We have Chris Hackney as Rauru in Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Ben Starr as Clive Final Fantasy XVI, and if I'm being honest, I kind of hope he wins because Clive sounds incredible. And Tim Downey as Gale in Baldur's Gate 3. For best audio design, I found this one a little difficult to really figure out because, audio design is not something I think about a lot with video games, so I didn't really know how, the Game Awards even evaluates best audio design. I'll explain, what I mean by that after I show my predictions, but I think we're going to see Hi-Fi Rush, Alan Wake 2, Forza Motorsport 2023, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, and Spider-Man 2. My reasoning for Call of Duty and Forza, they always get nominated in these categories for some reason, and for some reason they win, all the time. Why does Forza win for its sound design of Vroom Vroom? I really do not get it. Someone explain in the comments down below what that's all about. I really don't get it. For best score and music, this one was hard because a lot of games this year had really good music, so narrowing it down to 5 was kind of tough. We have Hi-Fi Rush, Final Fantasy XVI, Spider-Man 2, Sea of Stars, and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. As tough as this is, I think Sea of Stars might take it, solely for the reason that Yasunori Mitsuda, the composer for Chrono Trigger, was on this project. So, that's why it's getting my vote, personally. For best art direction, we have Super Mario Bros. Wonder, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Starfield, Lies of P, and Alan Wake 2. If I had to pick, I would say it's either Mario Wonder or Lies of P. Lies of P just looks really cool. I'm a huge fan of the visual style of that game. It is worth mentioning that with these next couple categories, we're getting towards the top. It's going to be a lot of repetition. You're going to see the same names over and over again. And it's not because these are my opinion. It's because the Game Awards does a lot of repeated nominations. Because whatever gets nominated for Game of the Year usually gets nominated for several other of the top categories. So, just putting that out there. For best narrative, honestly, best narrative was kind of easy because you just pick a bunch of RPGs because those are usually the most narrative driven, or at least that was my logic here. You have Final Fantasy XVI, Starfield, Baldur's Gate 3, Alan Wake 2, and Spider-Man 2. The only reason I really have Spider-Man 2 is because Marvel fans love, the whole MCU thing and intertwining multiverse storyline bullshit. Otherwise, I'd probably replace Spider-Man 2 with some other RPG. For best game direction, we have Alan Wake 2, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Starfield, Spider-Man 2, and Super Mario Bros. Wonder. I mainly picked these because I really didn't know what best game direction went, so I kind of just went with games that had the most ethical development cycle because I was thinking about Mario Wonder and how developers were not crunched and they were given all the time they needed in the world to make this game as good as it was. So I kind of went off of that. Yeah, that was my logic. But the last award that I have predicted, this is the big one. Game of the Year. This was difficult. Like I said, a lot of good games came out this year. But yeah, narrowing it down to 6, this is for sure going to cause a stir this year no matter who wins. So, my predictions for Game of the Year are as follows. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, Final Fantasy 16, Starfield, Spider-Man 2, and Baldur's Gate 3. 2023 has been a fantastic year for games, all things considered. Like, a lot of good stuff came out this year, and 2024 is already shaping up to be pretty interesting. But yeah, Game of the Year is gonna get wild. So make sure you're watching the Game Awards on my Twitch channel, because yes, I will be co-streaming it. I don't have like the official co-streaming kit, but believe me, I will. They usually send me an overlay and all that. But yeah, I will put more details out about my co-streaming in the distant future. Within the month, you'll hear about when co-streaming is and what I plan to do for that. So definitely stick around for that. That's going to be on my Twitch channel. So hit the follow button down below, or click the link down below to go to my Twitch channel and follow if you aren't already. But if you're not really much of a live stream watcher, or you plan to watch the Game Awards on your own, just want to see my reactions, I will also be posting that stream on YouTube after the stream ends. So you'll have it either way. I would try to simulcast, but this laptop would probably explode if I did. So those are all of my predictions. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss other gaming content from me. And that's going to be it. See you all at the Game Awards.